Good evening, friends. We are going to be studying chapter 4 in Mishna Eruvin. Tonight's class is dedicated in loving memory of my dear mother, Rivka Bas Harav Shloimeh. Her yahrzeit, her second yahrzeit, will be this Sunday evening and Monday. May her neshama have an aliyah. In previous chapters, we discussed the Tchum Shabbos. The Tchum Shabbos is the limit of the Shabbos on how far you can walk, and that limit is 2,000 cubits. Now, there are two ways that we have discussed that a person's place where he is going to start, his starting point for these 2,000 cubits. There's two ways for a person to establish this center point from which he can go 2,000 cubits. Number one is a person, in an ordinary case, a person lives in a town or a city, and so automatically his house, and by definition his entire city, is his place of residency. And so he would be allowed to go 2,000 cubits in any direction he so chooses beyond the city limits. There's another way where he can start his center point for the 2,000 cubits, and that is with an Eruv. If a person places an Eruv, or alternatively, if he himself goes out of the city in any direction 2,000 cubits, and he starts the Shabbos there, or he has his designation there, he has his food placed there, so then essentially what he's doing is he's stating that his residency is at the 2,000 cubit mark, or wherever he puts it, and then he's got an additional 2,000 cubits from there. And again, as we explained, whatever cubits he gains on one side, he loses on the other side. Now, in this chapter, we're going to discuss other ways of a person having his tchum and the outcomes of this type of scenario. Mishnah Aleph. Mi shahitziuhu oivdikichavim, a person who is taken out of the city on Shabbos by Gentiles. These are talking about Gentiles who are seeking to do harm for him. In any case, they took him out. They forcibly moved him out of the city. Oi, alternatively, ruach ra. He had a bout with insanity. He went crazy. He flipped out. So now he flipped out. What did he do? He ran out of the city. He wasn't coherent at the time. And he finds himself more than 2,000 cubits from the city. So says the Mishnah, Imloi ela arba amis. He has only the 4 cubits that surround him. That's it. He can't move. Since he went out on Shabbos, and his place of residency was established when it became dark on Friday night, and that residency was in a place of the city. So now, even though it was against his will that he was taken out of the city limits, as far as Tchum Shabbos is concerned, once so let's say they didn't seek his, they weren't really looking to do harm. They were harassing him, and they forced him out of the city past 2,000 cubits, and then they ran away. He's stuck there. Or if he became sane, all of a sudden he was completely drunk, and then he wakes up and he's he's out of his limits, so he's got to stay there in his 4 cubits. Hechziruhu. What happens if these same Gentiles who are harassing him, they forced him out of the city, now they forced him back into the city? Alternatively, if in his insanity he went out, and this is not written here because he would have to recognize that he went out and came in, which is not likely if he was truly gone insane for temporarily. So that's why the Mishnah uses a simple case of one which he's fully cognizant and aware of his surroundings and what's going on. So if they bring him back, kilo layatza, it's as if he never left. Now what happens if these Gentiles took him to another town? So this town is past the 2,000 cubits limit. So ordinarily speaking, he would not have been able to get there. But they forced him from his town and they forced him to the other town. Or alternatively, if they put him into a fold or into a corral, so now they put him into a surrounded area, a place where he would be able to, even to, according to the Rabbanan in most instances, would be able to carry in such a place because it's surrounded, it's a defined area, it's a defined space. Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah Imrim, Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah say, Mahalach is kula. So once he's been placed, against his will, but he's been placed in this corral or another city, another town, so just like the Bnei Iri, just like the people who live there, they can walk through the entire place, so too he. Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Akiva Imrim, but Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Akiva disagree. And they say, even though he's now in a new town, he's only got his 4 cubits around him. And the Mishnah tells us a story that illustrate how these rabbis, these 4 rabbis, actually had to put their opinions into practice. Maisa, there was a story, Shabo Miprandisin, they came from Prandisin, which is a place. V'hifligos inosam bayam. So their boat they came from Prandisin, and their boat docked at the shore of Eretz Yisrael, and came a storm and blew and forced the boat out back into the sea. Now, apparently this was from Friday afternoon, it sent them out of the sea, and now it's Shabbos. So Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Hilchu Eskula. So this boat is now on sea for Shabbos. So they walked around the whole boat. Because to them it's like its own little contained area. Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Akiva, but Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yeshua, they didn't move from their 4 cubits. They stayed in the same place for the whole Shabbos, because they wanted to be stringent on themselves. And again, because even according to them, in the boat situation, there's no place where you can say, okay, this is our place, because the boat is moving. So it wouldn't make a difference if they.
But inside the boat it was their place.
So even according to them, they consider this a chumrah. They want to be machmir on themselves. Whereas had this scenario been somewhere else, like in a corral or a pen or a barn, then it wouldn't be considered a chumrah. It would be considered the law, according to them. You can't move from your 4 amas.
According to them?
Yes. Pamachas, one time, another story. They did not enter in the harbor until night fell on Friday night. So again, apparently they traveled a number of times and they traveled together. And so their boat comes to shore at nightfall.
Then there's an additional problem.
What?
There's an additional problem. You cannot stop in Shabbos.
Well, they didn't stop it. There's a person who's Amr Lahen, so they said Amr Rabbi Gamliel. So the others asked to Rabbi Gamliel, what's the story with us? Can we disembark? Can we get off this boat? Amr Lahen mutarin. Atem, you can get off the boat. Why? Because I was paying attention when I was watching. And we were within 2,000 cubits of the shore already just before nightfall. And so since he was paying attention, since they were already in the 2,000 cubits of the city, so therefore they can disembark and be like the people of the city. Gimel. Misha Yatzav Reshu.
Rabbi Akiva?
I'm sorry?
No, that was.
It doesn't say who else was. It doesn't say who else was with them, but the people who were with Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah. I'm sorry, the people who were with Rabbi Gamliel. Misha Yatzav Reshus v'Amar Loi. Person who goes out of the Tchum Shabbos b'Reshus with permission. Yamru Loi, and they say to him, Kfar Nasa Maisa, the deed has already been done. What are we talking about here? So now, a person, the Mishnah tells us an interesting idea. A person who went beyond the 2,000 cubits with permission. Who is such a person? So there are a number of such people, which is discussed in Mishnah's other places. In Masechtas Rosh Hashanah, we spoke about a person who's coming to give testimony that he had seen the moon, the birth of the moon. So now, what happens if he is beyond the Tchum Shabbos? So the halacha is that you can violate Shabbos in many ways to bring testimony about the birth of the new moon to the court. So now, what happens? He went beyond the 2,000 cubits limit, because he had intended to bring testimony, to give testimony to the court. But somebody sees him, and says, "Hey, where you going? Because you seem like you're out of the limit." He goes, "Oh no, I'm on my way to Bezdin." And they tell him, "Well, it's already been established that they accepted testimony already." So now what does he do? He went out with Reshus, he went out with permission, but now he knows that he can't continue. There are alternative reasons for a person to go out with permission. A person who goes out lahatzalas nefashos, to save a life. So he had heard that he's a fireman. He heard there's a fire somewhere else, and he went to go save them, or he went to go do his duties, or there was a midwife went to go help somebody give birth. Let's keep it in simple. Let's keep it simple examples. So the halacha is now he went out with permission. He was allowed to go there. He was going to save a life. So now, so says the Mishnah, once he is informed that whatever he was going out for has been done, so the story is over. So he now has 2,000 cubits to travel in each direction. Now, if he was in the Tchum when he got this information, even though he was going in one direction, it's like he never went out of the Tchum, and he can go now the other way. He can go. It's like he never left. And all those. The Mishnah tells us a little bit different. I stand corrected here. The first example was specifically for giving testimony for the Bezdin, for seeing the moon, and then says the Mishnah something else. But the people who went out to save somebody, they get to go back to their place.
Otherwise, they wouldn't come.
Number one, you don't want to dissuade them from coming. Number one, and number two, even if they have weapons, they have to take their weapons back. Perhaps a new emergency will come along. Person is traveling on Friday and he's tired, so he sits down. And then he gets up. Now it's already nightfall, but it's a full moon out there, and so he's able to see things. So it's not totally dark, but it's night. Night has come. And he sees that he's close to a city. Why didn't he notice he was close to a city earlier? Because he was sitting. Since when it became dark on Friday night, he didn't have his intention to establish himself in that city. So he cannot enter the city. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. So he's like in no man's land and he's stuck there. Rabbi Yehuda says, Yikonis. He can enter the city. Omar Rabbi Yehuda tells a story here. Proof. It happened once. This very story happened. Rabbi Tarfon, which was a previous generation, it happened to him that he did not realize that he was close to a city when nightfall came on Friday night. And once he realized it, he went into the city. Now the halacha is according to Rabbi Yehuda. You can go into the city. It's not an issue. A person who was traveling and he got tired, so he lay down and went to sleep. It's Friday afternoon. He goes to sleep. And it becomes dark. Yeshle alpayim amal l'chol ruach. He has 2,000 cubits in every direction. Divrei Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. These are the words of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. The Chachamim argue. The sages say, he only has the 4 cubits that he is lying in. And who's the halacha like? No, in this is either Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri or the Chachamim. Which one do you think? Usually it's the Chachamim, but in this particular case, it goes according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Rabbi Eliezer says, V'hu be'emtzon. He is in their midst. Meaning to say that he can only go 2 cubits this way and 2 cubits that way. So he's in the center point of the 4 cubits. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, he's not in the center. Any direction he wants to go, he can go. So he could go 4 cubits in any direction. But Rabbi Yehuda admits and agrees that if he chooses a direction, he can go the other direction. So he has 4 cubits in any direction, but once he picks a direction, he's got to go that way. And that's where he is. You have 2 people who went to sleep on Friday, for example, and they wake up at Shabbos now, and they are stuck in their 4 cubits. So he has 4 cubits this way, right? So now they're 4 cubits apart. Okay? So now 2 of their cubits are overlapping. So the person is lying down and this other person is lying down. So he has 4 cubits that way, he has 4 cubits. So now the question is if I have stuff in my backpack, food, or he has in his backpack, so could we help feed each other? Could we pass things to each other? So because they're overlapping, so the overlapping area is area that we can both place things in and use. Let's read it in the Mishnah again. There are 2 people in this predicament, in the scenario that we described above, and their cubits are overlapping. So they can each place food in the center. He just has to be careful that he doesn't go beyond the 4 cubit limit. So they can both meet in the center and they can eat. If there were 3 and each one was 4 cubits apart, so the middle 2, so he overlaps on both sides. The person in the middle overlaps on both sides. And the middle one is overlapped by both of them. So he can eat with whichever portion he wants in the middle. And the ones on either side, to the right and to the left, can eat with him. However, but the ones on the outside are too far from each other to pass things to each other. Right. Rabbi Shimon says, to what can this be compared to? To 3 courtyards, Each courtyard is opened to the next. And they're all also open to the Rishus Harabim, which means that they're going to require an Eruv between them if you want to carry. If the two people on the outsides with the person in the middle, if they made an Eruv with the person in the middle, so then the people in the houses that are to the right and to the left, they are able to bring things to the middle, and the middle is able to bring things to them. They're able to carry and interchange between them. However, but the two outer ones cannot bring things from one house to the other through this courtyard because they didn't make an Eruv between all three of them. So basically, they only have the common area, which is in the center. Misha Bovaderech, a person who is traveling and darkness is approaching. It's a Friday. And he's walking. He thought he would make it back to his city for Shabbos, and apparently it's getting darker and darker, and it's almost nightfall. And he sees from the distance, he sees either a tree or a fence. V'yomar, and he says, Shvisasi tachtov, my Shabbos, my resting place, my focal, my home, so to speak, my dwelling place for this Shabbos is going to be underneath that tree. Lo yamar klum. It's as if he said nothing. Why? Because a tree is big and it's more than Dalet Amas. So he didn't specify exactly which Dalet Amas he's going to be. Now, he's not in the city yet. If he was in the city, it would be no issue. But he's out in a field somewhere. And so he didn't specify where he's starting. So it's like he didn't say anything. Because it's a lot of area beneath the tree. Shvisasi v'ikari. But if he said, my Shabbos, my resting place, my home, my camp, if you will, is at the trunk of the tree, so now he's established where the Dalet Amas that he's starting at. And now he has 2,000 Amas in each direction from there. Because it's as if, now he didn't even have to put his feet there, and this is a leniency in this case. He didn't have to put his feet there, and he didn't have to put his food there. Just by, he sees it, that's where I'm camping. So now he has 2,000 Amas from there, and hopefully that can get him into the city. So even if he's able to see it from 2,000 cubits away, right? Even if he's able to see it from 2,000 cubits away, he can gain 4,000 cubits. He can gain the 2,000 cubits there, and then that's his home base. And now now he can go another 2,000 cubits, and hopefully that'll get him to the city. So he can go from his place, so as we just said, he can go from the place where he's standing and he recognizes the tree. He can walk 2,000 amas, and from the trunk of the tree, and to his city, he can go another 2,000 to his home. So at nightfall, he can still go 4,000 cubits. If he doesn't know any landmarks, the post on that fence, the beginning of the fence, the end of the fence, the middle of the fence, the mile marker, whatever it is, it has to be something that he recognizes. A mile marker, by the way, would be an interesting point in our day and age. A person's walking along the road and he knows the mile markers. He could say mile marker number 44, and he can actually measure. It's already measured out in cubits. If he knows how to calculate the cubits with the miles. But the point is that you can actually. It's a very relevant halacha. Imeni makir, if he doesn't know any landmarks, or if he doesn't know the halacha that he's able to do this. The Omar, and he says, Shvisasi b'mkeimi. He says, my shvisa, my base, my resting place is right here where I am right now. And then it's nightfall. So now it's just like he placed the just like any tchum situation.
At that moment, he lost 2,000.
So now he gains 2,000 amas in every direction.
But he lost another 2,000 amas.
He didn't lose another 2,000.
Because he could say.
Right, but he didn't know about it, or he doesn't know which. He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know the truth. Either he doesn't know the halacha, or he doesn't know the thing. Yeah, he could have got 4,000.
And he could walk another 2,000.
Right. So he can now go 2,000 amas. Agulis divri Rabbi Chanina ben Antignos. Rabbi Chanina ben Antignos says that he can go in a circle 2,000 amas from his base. So wherever his base is, he can go 2,000 direct amas. So if you had a rod that was a string that was 2,000 amas long, you could go in each direction. However, the Chachamim says mirubais. It's different. The Chachamim are more lenient. They say 2,000 cubits in one direction, and then you square it off, which is actually a further area. He's shaking his head because he understands, what is it, not geography, I guess geography a little bit, but it would be...
triangulation, geometry.
Geometry. Yeah. So in this particular case, according to the Chachamim, you have more of a distance that you can cover. 2,000 amas.
Yeah, that's a square.
That's a squirrel. So you gain all the edges on each side. Ketavla merubas, like a square board. Kadeshi nishkad lazavies, and this way he can gain the corners, which otherwise he would not have been able to gain. Tes. V'zoi shamru. This is what they have said. Ha'oni ma'arid baraglo. A poor person can make an eruv with his feet. What does this mean? A poor person doesn't have food to go make an eruv. Doesn't have extra food to make an eruv. So what does he do? He goes with his feet. His feet. A person who doesn't have food to make an eruv, he doesn't want to, he can actually walk to the place 2,000 cubits before Shabbos, stand there when it gets dark and say, this is my base. Now he just made an eruv. An eruv is only to mean lenient, so that you don't have to. So as we're going to say, Rabbi Meir says, Ein anu ein lanu ela ani. So he says, if the Chachamim had said that an ani can make an eruv with his feet, so we only know about an ani, we don't know about an usher, a wealthy person. Rabbi Yehuda says, Echad ani v'echad usher. Doesn't mean only a poor person can make an eruv with his feet. A wealthy person and a poor person alike. Loi amru me'orvim b'pas, the idea of making an eruv with food and with bread, ela l'hokal ala usher, is only a leniency for the person who has food, that they don't actually have to be in the place of their eruv. They can use their food in their stead. If a person doesn't want to make an eruv at night, that means I have to be distant from the city 2,000 cubits at nightfall. That's a hardship. So it's not pshat, says Rabbi Yehuda, that it's only for a poor man. It's a poor man's eruv. It's anybody can make this eruv. But anybody can make this eruv. Just a person who has food that they could use in their stead is able to use food in their stead, instead of actually being in a place that they don't want to be at nightfall on Friday night. One who set out for a town. One who set out from a town to make an eruv for them. So the people of a town, they said, Reuven, go make an eruv on our behalf. And he sets out. And one of his friends turns him back and says, it's very hot, or it's raining, or whatever it is. Are you going to go there and make an eruv there now for everybody? No. He convinces him to come back. Says the Mishnah, where did he have in mind to place his eruv? 2,000 cubits. So it's as if, in this particular case, it's as if he placed it there and he can go there. The whole b'nei ha'ir asurin, but he can't have this. This doesn't help the people in his city. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Because the person had set out, he himself had set out to go make this eruv, and it was only his friend that pulled him back. So says Rabbi Yehuda that it's in this instance, it's as if he made the eruv. Because he had it in mind. It's kind of like, there is my place. Like we said before, he didn't actually get there. That's my base. So we see there are certain instances that you're even not there and you didn't put food there. You can establish a base there. But that only works for himself, says Rabbi Yehuda. It doesn't work for the rest of the people in the town who sent him. Rabbi Meir Omer, Kol Shu Yachal Arev Elei Erev. Any person who wanted to make an Erev, but didn't end up making the Erev. So this is this person. He wanted to make the base. He wanted to set up base there, but he didn't end up going. Not because he didn't get there. Because somebody convinced him to come back. Hareza Chamor Gamol. This is the same expression we used in last week. It's like a donkey and a camel, which means donkeys are led from by the rear and camels are led from the front. So in other words, nishta hin or nishta her, as they say in Yiddish, he's caught in between, and so it's as if he made an Erev and didn't make an Erev. So all the stringencies would apply to him. So he can't go 2,000 cubits that way, and he can only go 0 cubits the other way because it's as if he made an Erev. So he loses out on both ends. Misha yatzachutz latchum, person who leaves the tchum accidentally. He's walking along, and all of a sudden he realized, I walked out of the tchum. Afilu amachas, even 1 cubit, lo yikonis, he cannot come back. He has to stay there, right there, for the rest of Shabbos. Rabbi Eliezer Eimer, shtayim yikonis. Rabbi Eliezer says, no, even if he's 2 cubits beyond the limit, he can come back. Sholish lo yikonis, but if he's 3 cubits, he can't come back. Similarly, person who is beyond the tchum of a city, even 1 cubit, when it becomes dark, lo yikonis, he cannot come into the city because he's missing it by just 1. Person who's 1 cubit beyond the tchum of the city, and now it becomes dark. So now he has 2,000 amas he could walk, because that's where he was on the beginning of Shabbos, but his 2,000 amas, his 2,000 cubits, and where? An amma 1 cubit before the city. He can't come into the city. Rabbi Shimon disputes all of this. And he says, even if he was 15, up to 15 amas beyond the tchum Shabbos of the city, he can still come in. Why? She'ein ha-mosheches mimatzen hasamidus mipnei hatoyin. And the reason for this is because the surveyors do not give their full measure because of people who err. So, in other words, there's a little bit of extra space. There's a little leeway. They don't give a full measure. There's leeway. So under ordinary terms, we don't use this leeway. But a person who's literally, he's very close. He misses it by just a little bit. Such a person can rely on the fact.
Like the extra 18 minutes.
What did you say about the person by the moon? I think there's.
So we're going to close the broadcast here, and then I'll answer your question about the moon. Please join us again next Wednesday as we continue with chapter 5 of Masechtas Eruvin. Have a very good evening.